Welcome back, y'all, and happy Tuesday. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. Today, we're going to be finishing up with our defensive players that are eligible for the NFL draft. We're going to talk about Keenan Pili. I wanted to give him his own separate video because I do think that he does deserve it. Obviously, he has a season-ending ACL injury in the 5th game of the season, and we've heard nothing but great things about Keenan Pili. So definitely rooting for him, but we're going to go into all the information about Keenan, and I'll tell you where I think his draft stock lies at, and if he will end up getting picked up by an NFL team. Please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. All right, y'all, this is Keenan Pili's profile. We all know that he played linebacker at Tennessee. He was listed at 6'3", 240 pounds on Tennessee's website. Last season, he had 29 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. He only played in 4.5 games. He went out early in the Arkansas game, and he's been clocked as fast as 19 miles per hour, which I think is anywhere between a 4.6 to a 4.9. If Keenan Pili was healthy enough after the torn ACL to participate in the combine or on a pro day, I think he'd probably be a mid to low 4.7 guy. He might be able to break 4.7 and get into the 4.6s. If he cut a little bit of weight, probably 5 to 7 pounds would get him into the 4.6 range, which would be really good for an NFL linebacker, especially at his size. Everything is pretty much prototype for Keenan Pili. The biggest issue is going to be, number one, that he is an older player. He's going to be 27 in May. For those of y'all that don't know, he went to BYU out of high school in 2016. He went on a mission until 2019. That was his real freshman season at BYU. And he played well there, but, he did get injured in 2021. Ended the season with a torn ACL, and we're also seeing that in 2023 with Tennessee, he ended his season with a torn tricep after our first game. And then this past season, like we just talked about, in the 5th game, he ends the season with another torn ACL. So whenever you're having a bunch of knee problems, especially ACL tears, that's not going to look good to any NFL team. But it really looks even worse that he's older. He is projected to be an undrafted free agent. But if it wasn't for the injuries, and I would say even with the injuries, some teams will probably take some sort of a chance on him just because, again, everything is so prototype. If you look at the number 1 linebacker on most sites, it is Jahad Campbell from Alabama. We talked a lot about him. Pretty much the exact same size as Keenan Pili. He's 6'3", listed at 244. And I actually think that Keenan Pili plays somewhere around 243. So they're very, very similar size. He is faster, though. Campbell was clocked at 21.2 miles per hour, whereas Keenan Pili was clocked at 19. And then again, with the age, with the injury history, that is going to give Campbell a much higher upside and ceiling, for these NFL teams. But really, if you watch these two players play, I think that Keenan Pili is the better player. But let's go ahead and jump into the database, and I'm going to show you what I've pulled all this information from just as far as his draft prospects. And this information, just like always, is coming from NFL Mock Draft Database. You can see that Keenan Pili is ranked 820th in both categories. And if we scroll this thing up, we can see that there are no mock drafts for Keenan Pili at this point. All right, y'all, now let's take a look at Keenan Pili inside of the film room. The first thing that I'll tell you is he's one of the best diagnosers of plays that I've seen in a very, very long time. He always knows where the ball's going, and he's a true sideline-to-sideline guy. He's always around the football, whether it's in run support or whether it's in pass coverage. He has a really high motor, and he wants to get to it. But I think that the biggest takeaway is whether he can diagnose plays. He can look at the way that the offense is set up. He can look at where the motion is going and everything. He knows the down and distance, and he just knows where to be. So while he might not be, I would say, an elite athlete, that's not to say that he's not a very, very good athlete, because he's actually going to be, if he could test, I think that he would test above the NFL average at linebacker. But he's not one of these guys that are going to be, 4.4, 4.3 types of guys. And there are a few in this year's draft that run the 21 miles per hour, the 22 miles per hour. So he wouldn't probably be that high of a draft pick from that perspective. But again, watching his total body of work, the way that he can read plays and things like that, the way that he's a leader on and off the field, I think that all those things look really good. But now let's talk a little bit more about him just in run support. So I think that he is a prototype Mike, okay, if you're talking about NFL football. But he could probably also play some Will. He could play some Sam for you. But he's very, very strong at the point of contact. He beats blocks with speed. He beats blocks with power. And he's also very strong as a tackler. Rarely ever misses tackles. He knows when to go low. He knows when to take those kill shots. And, there was a time where he hit a quarterback so hard that Bryson Easton, who was on the backside of that tackle, got his face mask knocked almost completely off. And that was from the quarterback's body hitting his face mask. Okay, so that was Keenan Pili hitting him from one side, and just the sheer force and power was so strong that it knocked off his own teammate's face mask. But so he can do things like that. I think that he does have deceptive speed. While his mouth power might not look great, I think that he's going to be where he needs to be in any sort of a system. He looks great out in coverage. He can play man, does a really good job of guarding running backs coming out of the backfield. Again, I think a lot of that's because he can diagnose what the offense is trying to do to him, but he also looks great in all different zone coverages. Tennessee loved to run the Tampa 2 last season, so he looked really good dropping the depth. But even some of the underneath coverages, some of the curl to flats that he's going to be asked to do in the league, he does that very, very well, and he's going to know how to get into the passing lanes and force the quarterback to go where he wants him to go and get there really, really quickly to make those tackles and make those plays. So I'm not quite sure yet if Keenan Pili wants to continue to play football, but I think that he does have a good shot for somebody to take a chance on him. Someone's going to pick him up, and all he needs is that opportunity. If he can stay healthy, then he's a player that can play in the league for several years, and I think that he could do it at a very, very high level. All right, so we're all rooting for Keenan Pili, hoping and praying, wishing nothing but the best for him. Not quite sure what he wants to do, like we just talked about. If he does want to pursue it, then he probably could get picked up as an undrafted free agent, because this season's draft isn't that deep at linebacker, at least not from what I've seen. There's a couple that are really good up at the top. And if Pili hadn't gotten hurt, even with his age, I think that he probably at worst case would have been a third-round pick. There is a world that I could have seen him being, a first or second-round pick, just because he is so good on the field. He's an immediate plug and play. He can play at a really, really high level as soon as he hits the league. The issue, again, is just going to be because of the injury history and also with his age. It's going to be tough because I don't know if he's going to be ready even for like minicamp or any of that type of stuff for this upcoming season as a rookie. All of the, combine situations, pro day situations, I think that's way off the table. And that's also going to hurt him because teams are going to want to get him cleared before they draft him. So it's going to be tough. I'm not wishing this or hoping this, but it could turn into a situation where he might not get a chance, early on in this process. It might take for a team to, maybe take a waiver on him a little bit into the season once he does get medically cleared. I could maybe see something like that happen. I'm not quite sure how all that works. But if he wants to stick with it, I think that he should, because he is too good of a talent. He's one of my favorite linebackers for sure in Tennessee history, even though he only played very, very minimal reps and things like that. I love his whole makeup as a player, and I think that he's prototype for the NFL. That's what he was, hopefully born to do. And if not, if he wants to pursue some other things, I hope that he does stick around football, because I think that he has a whole lot to give. And I would love it even more if he wants to stick around with our Tennessee Volunteers. But those are my thoughts. Please share yours with me down in the comments section. And as always, please do make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.